Welcome to the deep dive. You know, if you've ever stood at that pharmacy counter holding your prescription, just sort of bracing yourself for the price,
Mhm.
well, you know that feeling. It's this unique kind of dread almost.
It really is. That financial anxiety, it's real. And it comes from knowing that drug prices are just, well, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Often it feels completely arbitrary.
Yeah, totally arbitrary. And it's not like we're talking small differences either.
No, not at all. There's research looking at the retail cash price. The official term is usual and customary, or UNC price. It found that for just 5 common generic drugs, the total price could swing from like $66
66. Okay.
all the way up to $1,351.
Wait, 1,300 for the same 5 generics?
Exactly. A 20-fold difference. And often it just depends on which pharmacy you happen to walk into. It's a massive market anomaly.
That's insane. And when you're dealing with that kind of price lottery for something you need, like medication for a chronic condition or, something life-saving, well, finding savings isn't just nice. It becomes absolutely urgent.
And that urgency, that desperation, unfortunately, that's exactly when you're most vulnerable. It pushes people towards sources promising these unbelievable discounts. Or, they end up relying on these really complex discount systems without quite getting the hidden traps in the fine print.
Okay, so let's really unpack this today. Our mission for this deep dive is pretty critical. We're going to look into sources that shine a light on the, frankly, extreme risks involved when you're trying to find affordable medication.
Right.
We'll analyze the really dangerous traps set by criminals, sophisticated ones trying to exploit that price desperation, and then we'll shift gears and look at the complex legal systems, the discount cards and programs designed to help. But sometimes they actually profit from the whole mess.
Yeah, sometimes they even seem to prop up the underlying problem of inflated prices. So to do this, we've pulled together some critical safety warnings. We've got stuff from the FDA, the CBC, even the Canadian government. And we're pairing that with some really deep analyses of the U.S. drug pricing system itself. PBMs, how discount programs like GoodRx actually work.
And we've even got perspectives from pharmacists and doctors, right? People on the front lines.
Exactly. Documented feedback from folks who deal with this stuff every single day.
Okay. Part 1, the dark trap. Let's start with the really scary part, counterfeit online pharmacies and the lethal risk. Because the moment you start Googling cheap drugs online, well, you're stepping into a minefield.
Yeah, it gets unsettling fast. Our sources are really clear. The vast majority of websites pretending to be pharmacies are just illegitimate.
How vast are we talking?
Globally, the estimates are shocking. Something like 96% of online pharmacies operating worldwide are considered untrustworthy.
96%.
Yeah. Now, if you narrow it down just to North America, it gets a bit better, but not much. It's still around 74% that are flagged as illegitimate, often because they just don't meet basic requirements, like needing a prescription or having proper licensing.
And if these sites are sourcing drugs from outside the U.S. or Canada, that's illegal, right?
It's explicitly illegal, yes.
Yeah.
And incredibly dangerous. These are unapproved prescription drugs. They haven't been looked at by the FDA or Health Canada for safety, for quality, for whether they even work. It's completely unregulated.
So this isn't just about maybe losing your money.
Oh, far from it. This is a serious, potentially life-threatening health risk. If you buy from one of these fraudulent sites, you might get pills with the wrong ingredients, or maybe no active ingredient at all.
Which is disastrous if you need that medication.
Totally disastrous. Or, even worse, the pills could contain actively harmful stuff, toxic chemicals.
The term I've seen is substandard and falsified medical products, right? SF products.
Exactly. Falsified products are deliberately faked to look like real medicine, purely for profit. They're fraudulent by nature, and they're disturbingly common.
And they can be faked in different ways.
Right. Sometimes they just don't have enough of the active ingredient, so you're not getting the dose you need. Other times, they swap out the real drug entirely, maybe with dangerous chemicals or even completely different drugs. And they're getting so good at making them look real, the average person just can't tell the difference.
We have some really chilling examples of this, especially with synthetic opioids. The CDC keeps warning about this, right? Counterfeit pills laced with fentanyl.
Yeah, it's a massive public health concern. Fentanyl is incredibly potent. You hear figures like 50 times stronger than heroin, maybe 100 times stronger than morphine.
Wow.
And it's cheap for criminals to get in powder form. So they press it into pills designed to look exactly like legitimate prescription painkillers like Oxycodone or Xanax or Adderall.
Yeah.
They exploit the real drug shortages and the high cost of the legitimate stuff.
There was that huge DOJ indictment back in September 2024 that really laid this bare.
Oh, yeah, that was a major case. It targeted this really sophisticated network. They weren't just selling fake pills online. They were actually manufacturing millions of them across the country.
Manufacturing them where? Not in some big factory.
No, that's the scary part. They set up these illicit pill mills in, like, residential apartments, basements, places in Manhattan and the Bronx.
Seriously, in apartment buildings?
Yeah. Using industrial-grade equipment, pill presses, custom mold, they were importing powdered narcotics, mainly fentanyl, from overseas and pressing them into pills that looked identical to the real deal. The sources said some of these operations could crank out, like, 100,000 pills in just 12 hours.
That's terrifying efficiency, and people died.
Tragically, yes. The indictment mentioned at least 9 victims who died from narcotics poisoning after buying these fakes. There was one specific case documented, a 45-year-old Army veteran. She was looking online for M30 Oxycodone, a real painkiller. She found a site, placed an order. The pills arrived. They looked completely legitimate, but they contained a lethal mix of pure fentanyl and something called parafluorofentanyl. She died 5 days after taking them.
Oh, my God.
And what's really heartbreaking, the source material mentioned, is she actually tried to be careful. She did her own research online, trying to verify if the pills looked genuine. But the fakes were made so well, chemically and physically, she couldn't spot the danger.
So just trying to save money online could lead directly to, well, to death. Because the fakes look so real.
It highlights the core danger, yeah. The visual authenticity is what these criminals rely on to exploit people's need for a cheaper option.
And it's not just opioids they're faking, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
The FDA has tons of documentation on other dangerous fakes, like Counterfeit Alley, the over-the-counter weight loss drug.
Yeah, no alley.
Fake versions were found containing sibutramine instead of the real ingredient, or widely stacked. Sibutramine is banned pretty much everywhere because it's linked to serious heart problems, high blood pressure.
Not exactly what you want in a weight loss pill.
Definitely not. Or think about the ADHD medication shortages we've seen. Counterfeit Adderall pills turned up containing a mix of tramadol, which is an opioid pain reliever, and acetaminophen.
So not only does it not treat the ADHD, but it risks opioid dependency.
Exactly. Worsens the underlying condition and introduces a new risk. And this reaches even the most critical areas like cancer treatment. There was a case with counterfeit Avastin.
That's a really expensive cancer drug.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
And vital for treatment. The fake vials contained absolutely zero of the active ingredient, bevacizumab. None. Patients getting those fakes were effectively receiving no cancer therapy at all. The outcomes were devastating.
So the risk is fake ingredients, wrong ingredients, or no ingredients. But it's not just about intentional fakes, is it? The supply chain itself has issues.
That's a really important point. Even legitimate drugs can become unsafe. We talk about things like diversion drugs being sold outside the proper channels, or outright cargo theft, or even just improper storage.
Right.
All of these things compromise the drug's quality and safety, even if it started out perfectly genuine.
Can you give an example of that, like the storage issue?
Sure. Think about drugs that need refrigeration. Lots of injectables, some liquids. Insulin is a classic example. It needs strict temperature control.
Right. It degrades if it gets too warm or freezes.
Exactly. So there's a serious public health alert about stolen vials of Levemir, which is a long-acting insulin. Because these stolen lots weren't stored correctly during or after the theft, people who unknowingly used vials from those batches reported problems.
What kind of problems?
Poor glycemic control. Basically, the insulin wasn't working properly because it had been exposed to the wrong temperatures. For someone with diabetes, that's immediately dangerous. It shows how chasing a cheap price online can expose you to risks all along the supply chain, from fake ingredients right down to the temperature inside the delivery truck.
So, okay, searching for cheap drugs online involves massive risks, from deliberate counterfeits with deadly additives to failures in the supply chain itself. All right, let's pivot now. We've talked about the criminal underworld. Let's move into a different kind of complex system. The legal, but often really confusing, world of U.S. drug pricing and those discount cards. You know, things like GoodRx, they're super popular for saving money.
Incredibly popular.
But industry analyses suggest they actually profit, like, hugely from a system that's fundamentally broken.
Yeah, this is where you really see the paradox of the U.S. healthcare system. GoodRx built this incredibly successful business, essentially, by monetizing how irrational drug pricing is. I saw one source indicating their adjusted net income was something like 40%.
40%?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're basically extracting profit from the huge gap between two prices that arguably shouldn't be so far apart to begin with.
And the whole thing hinges on that inflated cash price, right? That usual and customary or UNC price pharmacies list. Why do pharmacies set that price so ridiculously high?
It's basically self-defense. It's a defense mechanism against the pharmacy benefit managers, the PBMs.
Okay, remind us who the PBMs are again.
They're the middlemen. They manage prescription drug benefits for insurance companies, big employers, Medicare Part D plans, etc. They negotiate prices with drug makers and pharmacies. Crucially, when a PBM pays a pharmacy back for an insured prescription, they generally won't pay more than the pharmacy's own advertised UNC cash price.
Ah, okay, so the UNC acts like a maximum limit for reimbursement.
Exactly. And pharmacies deal with hundreds of different insurance plans, hundreds of different PBM contracts, all with different rates. So to avoid accidentally setting their cash price lower than what some PBM might reimburse them, they just jack up the UNC price way, way high. Some are 10 or 20 times their actual cost.
So it guarantees they never lose money on a reimbursement because their list price is lower than the negotiated rate.
Precisely. But it creates this totally artificial, sky-high cash price for anyone unlucky enough to walk in without insurance or before meeting a deductible.
And that inflated price is what discount cards leverage. GoodRx steps into that gap.
Right. But here's the key. GoodRx isn't actually creating a new discount. It's giving consumers, especially uninsured folks, access to the lower prices that PBMs have already negotiated with pharmacies for their insurance networks.
So it's just revealing a hidden price.
Pretty much. It's providing access. Since those PBM network rates are almost always way below the inflated UNC cash price, the person saves money right there at the counter. GoodRx is essentially a user-friendly tool for finding and using those pre-existing lower rates.
But they're making serious money doing this. It's not a free service behind the scenes. How does the money flow?
It's quite clever, actually. When you use a GoodRx coupon, the pharmacy doesn't treat it like a simple cash sale. Instead, the claim gets processed or adjudicated through one of GoodRx's PBM partners.
Right.
The PBM essentially treats it like an insurance claim, where you, the patient, are paying the network rate. But here's the catch. For processing that transaction, the PBM charges the pharmacy a fee.
Wait, the pharmacy pays the PBM a fee just because I used a GoodRx coupon?
Yep, it can be like $5, maybe $10, sometimes more per prescription. And then the PBM shares a piece of that fee back with GoodRx.
Ah, so GoodRx gets paid by the PBM for sending the customer to that pharmacy and generating that fee-based transaction.
Exactly. Their revenue comes from steering you to use that PBM network price, which triggers the fee from the pharmacy to the PBM, which then gets shared.
That fee-sharing model sounds incredibly lucrative. We saw that number. 2019, GoodRx collected $364 million on $2.5 billion spent by consumers using their coupons.
Yeah, that works out to about 15%. Roughly 15 cents of every dollar spent using GoodRx went back to GoodRx itself.
That's a huge cut just for revealing a lower price that already existed, basically because the starting price was artificially inflated.
Which leads directly to the pharmacy backlash. You talk to pharmacists, especially independent pharmacy owners, and they often really dislike this model.
Why? What's their main frustration?
Well, two big things. First, they potentially lose out on the higher profit margin if a cash-paying customer would have paid the full UNC price without the coupon. Second, and maybe more importantly, they have to pay that darn processing fee to the PBM. That $5 or $10 can eat up their entire margin or even make them lose money on the prescription.
Especially for independents operating on, what, razor-thin margins, as the sources say.
Exactly. For them, paying a $5, $10 fee just to fill a prescription, often for a customer who would have come in anyway, can mean taking a net loss on that specific drug.
So what do they do?
Well, some independent pharmacies just refuse to accept GoodRx or similar discount cards. They figure they can offer the patient their own lower cash price, match the coupon price maybe, but do it without running it through the PBM system. That way, they avoid the processing fee altogether.
Okay, so this whole layered system creates tension with pharmacies. But there's another big problem. Doctors not understanding how it works.
Yes, this is a critical issue impacting patient care. The sources show that doctors, trying to help patients with costs, often just reach for GoodRx as the sort of go-to resource for drug prices. They treat it like the gold standard, but that can lead to big mistakes.
Because they don't understand the insurance side.
Pretty much. Doctors are usually focused on diagnosis and treatment, not the nitty-gritty of insurance formularies and PBM contracts. They see the GoodRx app is quick and easy for an estimate, but that estimate is totally disconnected from the patient's actual insurance benefits.
You mentioned the Latuda example earlier. Can you walk through that again?
Sure, so a medical team was considering options for a patient needing an antipsychotic. A student on the team quickly checked GoodRx for Latuda and reported back, it's $1,250 a month.
Whoa. Okay, sticker shock.
Exactly. The team's immediate reaction was, okay, forget Latuda, that's way too expensive. They started looking at other, potentially less ideal options based purely on that GoodRx price.
But they didn't check the patient's insurance first.
No, not initially. Turns out the patient had Medicare Part D. When they finally did check the patient's actual plan benefits, the copay for Latuda was only $90 a month.
$90 versus $1,250, that's a huge difference.
Massive. And they almost ruled out the potentially best treatment because they relied on the discount card price instead of the patient's real coverage.
Okay, and this ties into probably the most important point for listeners with insurance.
Absolutely critical, especially if you have a high deductible health plan or Medicare Part D. Any money you spend using a discount card like GoodRx does not count towards your insurance deductible.
Say that again? It doesn't count.
It does not count. It also doesn't count towards your annual out-of-pocket maximum.
Why not?
Because it's not being processed as an insurance claim under your policy. It's being processed outside your insurance through the PBM via the discount card program. It's treated like a cash transaction, essentially, from your insurer's perspective.
So you save money up front, maybe $20 on a prescription.
Right. You get that immediate saving. But let's say you have a $5,000 deductible. All those $20 savings you got using GoodRx throughout the year, they do absolutely nothing to help you reach that $5,000 threshold where your insurance finally starts paying most or all of the cost.
That feels like a major trap.
It can be a huge financial risk. You save small amounts now, but if you have a major health issue later in the year or need a really expensive specialty drug, you might find yourself having to pay that entire deductible out of pocket, whereas if you'd used your insurance all along, you might have already met it. Those discount card payments are effectively lost from an insurance perspective. They don't help you get through the Medicare donut hole either.
So using the card saves a little now, but could cost you thousands later if you hit your deductible or coverage gap. That's wow. Okay, so we've seen the deadly risks of fakes and the complex, sometimes costly dynamics of discount cards. Let's get practical. We need a safe path. How do people actually save money safely and legitimately? Let's start with avoiding the danger zone, spotting those illegal online pharmacies.
Right. Protecting your health has to be priority number one. We need to be super vigilant. The FDA's Be Safer X campaign gives us clear red flags to watch out for.
What's the absolute biggest red flag?
If the website does not require a valid prescription from your doctor, that's it. Game over. A legitimate pharmacy will always require one. No exceptions.
Okay, non-negotiable. What else?
Be really wary of prices that just seem way too good to be true. Remember why those deep discounts often mean it's stolen, diverted, or fake. Also, ignore those unsolicited spam emails offering super cheap drugs. And be very suspicious of any site located outside the U.S. that talks about shipping prescription drugs into the U.S. that's generally illegal importation.
Can we flip that? What are the signs of a legitimate online pharmacy, like a positive checklist?
Absolutely. Think of it as a verification checklist. First, again, they must require a valid prescription.
Yeah.
Second, they need to be licensed by a relevant authority, a state board of pharmacy in the U.S., or a provincial one in Canada. And you can actually check this. Look for links to verify their license, or use programs like the NABP's Verified Internet Pharmacy Practice Sites, VIPPS program.
Okay, license check. What else?
They have to provide a real physical street address in the U.S. or Canada, not just a P.O. box, a verifiable location. And fourth, there must be a licensed pharmacist available that you can actually talk to ask questions, usually by phone or maybe secure chat.
Prescription, license, address, pharmacist access. Got it. If a site fails any of those, walk away.
Walk away fast. It's just not worth the risk to your health or your finances.
Okay, so that's avoiding the bad actors. Now, how do we save money safely within the legitimate system? Strategies that work with your doctor and pharmacist.
Number one, always ask about generics. Talk to your doctor. Generic drugs are required to be therapeutically equivalent to the brand name version.
Meaning they work the same way in your body.
Exactly. But they can be up to 85% cheaper. Unless there's a very specific medical reason you need the brand, generics should usually be the first choice.
And the financial benefit is doubled, right? Cheaper upfront, and it counts towards your deductible.
Precisely. Every dollar you spend on a generic through your insurance helps you meet your deductible and out-of-pocket max. For Medicare Part D folks, it helps you stay out of or delay hitting that coverage gap, the donut hole. It's a win-win.
Okay, step 1, generics. What's next?
Step 2, understand your insurance formulary. That's the list of drugs your plan covers, often grouped into tiers. Higher tiers usually mean higher copays for you.
So you want lower tiers, if possible.
Right. So talk to your doctor.
All right.
Ask specifically, are any of the brand name drugs I'm taking in a higher tier? And if so, is there a therapeutically equivalent drug in a lower tier that I could switch to?
Therapeutically equivalent, again, meaning it does the same job medically.
Yes. If a cheaper drug on a lower tier works just as well for your condition, making that switch is just straightforward savings without compromising your health.
Makes sense. What's strategy number 3?
Look into manufacturer assistance programs. This is especially important for really expensive, often brand name only, specialty drugs. Think biologics for autoimmune conditions, newer cancer drugs.
Like the Humira example you mentioned, costs like $60,000 a year.
Exactly. For drugs like that, the manufacturers often have patient assistance programs or copay cards that can bring the patient's costs down dramatically, sometimes to almost nothing.
But there's a catch, right? Eligibility.
Yes, a crucial caveat. Many of these manufacturer programs specifically exclude people who have government insurance, especially Medicare Part D. So you have to check the fine print and see if you qualify based on your insurance type. Don't just assume you can use them.
Okay, so check manufacturer programs, but verify eligibility. What's the final piece of advice?
For people on Medicare, take managing your drug coverage seriously. Don't just stick with the same Part D plan year after year. Use the official Medicare website, medicare.gov, to compare plans every year during open enrollment.
Why every year?
Because the plans change,
Yeah.
their formularies change, their costs change, their pharmacy networks might change. What was the best plan for you last year might be a terrible, expensive choice this year. You have to actively compare based on the specific drugs you take.
Okay, actively manage Part D. And there was something about extra help.
Yes, if you have Medicare and also have limited income and resources, you should absolutely check with the Social Security Administration about the Extra Help program. It's designed specifically to help people pay for their Part D premiums, deductibles, and copays. It can be a huge financial lifesaver for prescription costs.
Got it. So to recap the safe strategies, ask for generics, optimize your formulary tiers with your doctor, check manufacturer assistance, but verify eligibility, and actively manage Medicare Part D, including checking for extra help.
Exactly. These are all proactive steps within the legitimate system. They focus on lowering your real costs or accessing existing support, rather than chasing risky online deals or using discount cards that might have hidden financial downsides.
So we've really journeyed through a pretty perilous landscape today, haven't we? The world of medication affordability. We contrasted those life-threatening risks from fake online pharmacies, criminals using deadly narcotics to mimic real drugs.
Truly terrifying stuff.
Yeah. And then we looked at the really complex profit-driven system behind discount cards like Good Cards, which kind of thrive on the system's brokenness. It feels like the main takeaway is that knowledge, getting up to speed quickly but thoroughly, is really your best defense here against both the criminals and the confusing legal bureaucracy.
I think that's right. And if you connect it all back to the bigger picture, you can see the fundamental issue, right? It's that artificially high list price, the UNC price, that creates the opening for both problems.
How so?
Well, it makes the fake drugs sold online seem attractively cheap by comparison. And it creates the massive price gap that allows legitimate businesses, like the discount card companies, to step in as intermediaries and take a significant cut, just for revealing the lower hidden price. Both sides are essentially capitalizing on that initial price inflation.
So the real solution isn't just a better discount card.
No, not fundamentally. The real disruption would be tackling that inflated list price head on, finding the political will, the economic levers, whatever it takes to get rid of the need for all these complicated fee-generating discount layers by ensuring drug prices are just more reasonable and transparent from the start.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listeners, to chew on. What really stands out to you from all this?
Yeah, maybe consider this. If these popular discount programs can make so much money, like 15 cents on the dollar basically, just by showing you a lower price that the PBM's already negotiated, what real incentive do the big pharmacy chains and the powerful PBMs currently have to stop inflating that initial cash price in the first place?
How long can that kind of profitable complexity actually last before, maybe, consumer frustration forces a more fundamental change? Something to think about.
Definitely.
And finally, if you do encounter something suspicious, an online pharmacy that doesn't ask for a prescription, or maybe a medication that causes an unexpected reaction, please report it.
Yes, use the official channels. In the U.S., you can report adverse drug reactions to the FDA's MedWatch program. And if you suspect criminal activity, like a counterfeit seller, report it to the FDA's Office of Criminal Investigations.
And if you're in Canada.
You can report health product issues directly to Health Canada. And for fraud, like scams involving fake pharmacies or dodgy discount cards, report it to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre.
Your report could genuinely help protect someone else from falling into these dangerous traps. Thanks for diving deep with us today.